How are we doing there, boys and girls? Manthieus here, and welcome back to another video. So today we got to talk about one of probably the biggest substantial changes the auction house has ever seen. It's been in the works for a little while. We had a bit of a sneak preview of this becoming a thing a month or two back at this point, but now we've got to break it down. Now we've got to work out exactly what's going on. What are we talking about? Well, we're talking about the commodity markets going region-wide. The auction house is changing in a fundamental way, and it's coming in patch 9.2.7. We got clarification from Blizzard yesterday that patch 9.27 is on its way. It's on its way to us August the 16th. So at least the time of recording this video only a few days away. But today we're going to talk about it in a little bit more detail. We're going to break it down. I'm going to try and explain it to you guys so that you can be prepared for it. At this point, as long as I get this video out and up on YouTube quite quickly, there's only going to be a couple of days before this goes live, and there's going to be some changes, some significant changes to how the auction house works, so we need to talk about it a little bit today. But firstly, my name's Manthieus. You guys who are common viewers of the channel will know that, but I'm a World of Warcraft gold maker for the most part. I don't really engage too much in the high-end mythics or raids or that sort of stuff, but I do love playing with professions, playing with the crafting professions, doing a bit of farming from here and there, making a bunch of gold, and just seeing how the economy plays through this wonderful game that's been out for years and years at this point. So if you enjoy the content, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe if you're new around here. But first, let's take a little bit of a look then. What is actually changing? Well, it's only commodity markets that are going region-wide. As it stands right now, every single auction house is in its own little bubble almost. There is, I think we counted up close to 92 separate auction houses. Now, not every realm has its own auction house because some realms are merged together. But every realm which is merged with another shares the same auction house. The Horde and the Alliance have shared the same auction house on those realms for a long time as well. But still in the EU, there's over 92 of them in total. For commodity markets, these are all being merged into one gigantic auction house. But what is a commodity then? This is what's caused quite a bit of confusion because it's not everything. Not everything on the auction house is going region-wide, but the high traffic flow items are. So your commodities are going to be things like gems, herbs, flasks, most consumables that you can get your hands on. But there are some other noticeable extras that we'll talk about in a little bit in this video. But this is still a little bit ambiguous. I mean, they say etc. Well, what does that mean? Is there actually some way we can clarify specifically, is this item going to be a commodity? Is it not? Well, luckily we can do this. We can do this with quite simply if we head over to an auction house. The auction house in World of Warcraft had a bit of a revamp. When would it have been now? Patch 8.3, I think, in BFA. Might have even been 8.2. I can't remember at this point. But at some point in BFA, they changed the auction house to keep it running nice and smoothly. But one thing they did is implemented this last in, first out system. And with that came a new interface in the auction house. So if we find ourselves a potion, let's just find a spiritual healing potion or whatever. This doesn't really make much difference. But if you see this interface, you know that this interface is a commodity item. When you are forced to buy the cheapest ones first, you only get to type in a number of how many you want, and it will buy the cheapest ones regardless. You can be safe in the assumption that that is a commodity item. Items that are not going to be considered commodities and will stay local, stay region only, are going to be things like your weapons and your armor. Any time where you can select a item and you can choose which listing you want to either bid on or buy out. These are not commodity items. These will be staying server dependent. So what we can do with this is we can quickly work out that, well, actually, the items that are in high demand a lot of the time, there's going to be huge quantities of them, and the numbers are massive. The numbers are actually monstrous on this. If you look at any of the material markets, for example, if we try and find, let's just very quickly go over to, do I have any favorites on this realm? Of course I don't have any favorites. Let's just find some materials real quickly. Let's try and find something that's in reasonable quantity. Thick leather, for example. It doesn't matter what it is. You can see these are commodities. It shows you exactly how many there are. But if you have something like Trade School Master installed, you can get an indication to just how many of these things are available. Trade Skill Master gives you loads of information, and the interesting one to look at here is the region average daily sold. That number, which for thick leather is 51, is an indication to how many are sold on each and every realm every single day. So, as we've already established, there's about 92 different auction houses. So multiply 51 by, let's just use 100 for the ease of maths. You're looking at about 5,000 thick leather actually sells every single day across the entire region. This means that when it comes to selling items that you pick up on your travels, as long as you're happy to post them at whatever the current price is, there's a really, really good chance your auctions are going to get snapped up really quickly. I can only liken it to, you know, the equivalent of, instead of putting an ad to sell your old sofa in the local paper, you put it up on the billboard of the Super Bowl. You know, you're advertising your wares to just a monstrous amount of people. And the likelihood is anything that you list at the cheapest price is quite likely to sell remarkably quickly, at least if there is some steady demand for that item. Now, of course, thick leather's a leather from 10 years ago. If we try and find something a little bit more up to date, if we do shrouded cloth, for example, if we take, hey, oh yeah, it's not going to be in the leather category, is it? If we take shrouded cloth, for example, we can see these numbers grow monstrously. Interesting prices here, by the way. 16,657 is the average sold every single day on every single realm. You start multiplying that by 92 different auction houses, and there is just crazy quantities of materials moving through the auction house every day. So if you're out farming, you're grabbing some materials and you want to get them sold nice and quickly, this change is going to really, really impact your speed in which you can sell things that you farm. What I've done is I've started to put together a little bit of a pros and a little bit of a cons list, because not everything is completely rosy, but there are definitely some benefits to this system. Your selling commodities should be much faster, like we've discussed. Anytime you're out farming materials, if you're new into making gold, or you just want to craft a few potions or flasks or this sorts of thing to get yourself up and running, the likelihood is you're going to be able to sell things really, really quickly with this change. Because no longer are you only putting them in front of everybody else on your realm, you're putting them in front of everybody else on every realm. And if, you know, normal sort of rules apply, as long as it's an item that is in somewhat demand by people. Anyway, anything current content is always in somewhat of a demand. The chances of you selling your items remarkably quickly is much better. Now, there is a downside to this, though. Just because there's lots more people buying all of the stuff, there is also the likelihood that there'll be lots more people competing to sell their stuff. This does usually indicate that we will see some lower average sale prices for many, many items. Especially with the time that we're in at this expansion. We're very late in Shadowlands. Dragonflight Alpha's up and running. Some lucky few have been able to play around with that, and many people are starting to think about how they're going to do things in Dragonflight. This takes the focus away from Shadowlands quite a lot. We've just had Season 4 go live. We've just had the season, the Fated Raids kick in. So there is a little bit of demand for your potions and your commodity items, and some new BOEs appearing on the auction house and some good fun stuff like that. But very, very quickly, we'll come into this sort of downturn phase where pretty much nothing sells. Nothing sells for any decent price anyway. This is totally normal at the end of an expansion, but this is why I think it's a perfect time for Blizzard to make a change like this. A change like the auction house going region-wide for select items anyway is going to cause big ripples. It's going to cause prices to go up and down in a really unreliable way for a few days until the dust settles. But once it settles, it's going to be really, really good overall, I feel. Biggest pro for me is so many people I come across on a daily basis are trying to get into gold making, and I usually try and give people the advice that if you want to start doing any sort of farming, or if you want to do any sort of crafting, be very, very aware that you have to dedicate a good amount of time in some cases to actually sell stuff. Teaching people to sell things and to try and focus on selling things faster will mean that eventually you'll make more gold. Lots of people find it really easy to work out what to go and farm, but then they try and sell it and it sells really slowly. And the big reason why most things sell slowly is often the fact that there's just not that many people on their realm that want the thing that they've gone out and farmed. when you get to have the pick of the entire region's worth of sales, maybe getting into gold making, you're not going to become a millionaire overnight, not in any way, shape or form, but getting into gold making with the basic professions, crafting potions, making some enchants, cutting some gems, these sorts of markets, you should be able to step into much easier. You spend an hour or so crafting a bunch of stuff, you should quite reliably be able to put that stuff on the auction house at a competitive price and see it shift quite quickly. That's the hopes anyway. A lot of this is speculation. Until it actually kicks in, we don't know for sure, but the hope is there that it should be really, really good to see some fast, consistent sales for as long as the prices are reasonable. There are some markets that I just want to touch on for the end of this video. I can't really go into too much detail until we see exactly how it works in practice. But there are some markets that you might want to keep your eyes on. We did sort of drum up a few ideas on stream today. Twitch.tv/Manthieus, by the way, if you want to come and watch us play the game live. We're spending a lot of time on the alpha at the moment, so if you're interested in what's coming out with Dragonflight, come say hi. But things like the lattices from Zereth Mortis, this is a weird item that you wouldn't necessarily consider it to be a commodity normally, but they are. The lattices are the components that are needed along with Genesis motes and a few other items to be able to make some of the pets and mounts in Zereth Mortis. They're pretty readily available right now, but as time goes on and people are spending less and less time in Zereth Mortis, having some of these and being able to sell them on the commodity market will be much easier, I reckon. That's my thoughts anyway. Glyphs is another one. Glyphs fits quite nicely in a market to where a lot of people out there use their inscription to make a bunch of glyphs and they just throw them up on the auction house and they don't really focus on them too much, but if they sell, they sell, and if not, they come back into their mailbox and they relist them again. Glyphs is a market though where there's a good supply of different types of glyphs, and it becomes one of those markets that may benefit from cancel scanning. Not really a sensible thing to do today because there's just not enough people buying glyphs, but it's that same theory again. When you're putting your stuff in front of a huge monstrous audience, there is still some pretty reliable daily sales to be had on glyphs. And of course, there's 20, 30, 50, 100 different glyphs that you can be crafting and listing, greatly improving your chances of steady sales. The glyph market could be quite an interesting one. Bit of a shame that it's not getting much love in Dragonflight, but they are focusing on customizing your dragon in Dragonflight, so there may be a slightly alternative market coming in the future. Abyssal fragments and giant dinosaur bones. These are two components that at first glance don't really do anything too fancy, but you collect enough of them and you can basically turn them into a mount. And as we know, mounts are good, consistent sellers, even as we go into new and newer expansions. The abyssal fragments were introduced in BFA, and I think the giant dinosaur bones all the way from back in Mists of Pandaria, I want to say, on the Isle of Giants. But both of those two components, sure, they're quite pricey, and giant dinosaur bones, you need them in super large quantities. But we took a little bit of a look on the giant dinosaur bones, for example, and found that you could buy a huge percentage of the entire region's giant dinosaur bones, and that would still only take like a handful of people to come along and want to buy the mount, to buy them all off you in a big chunk. The commodity market might be quite a good one if you have a stash of these kicking about for sure. And then any reputation items. Basilisk's Eyes, Venom Sacs from back in Burning Crusade, for example. Two components that allow you to change from Aldor to Scryers and vice versa. They are also considered commodity items. So there's quite a few items that are considered commodities that most people may not necessarily initially think of. So as and when this change comes in, you can check your markets for these on a little bit more of a regular basis. And there's a good chance that if you can hoover up just a few of these on a regular basis until you've amassed a stockpile of them, you should hopefully be able to then relist them and sell them all in one go to somebody that comes along and wants an entire stack of them. They want to change their reputation quickly or whatever the case may be. So that's just a few tips from me. If you've got any other good examples, please let me and others know in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear from it. And of course, if you've got any questions about this, either drop them in the comments or come say hi over on the Discord. Our Discord now is popping off. There's loads of people chatting day in, day out about anything gold making related. So love to see you over there. Come say hi. But I'll leave it there for today, boys and girls. Come August the 16th, the auction house is going to change in dramatic ways. I hope that gives you a little bit more information about just exactly what's going to happen. And hopefully you can do something about it and preferably make a bit of gold, because there's going to be some interesting things happening. But if you like the video, give the video a like, subscribe if you're new around here, and I'll catch you all next time. Peace.